You're trying to save me, stop holding your breath. And you think I'm crazy, yeah, you think I'm crazy.
Hi my angels, it's Haley Reese, and for today's video, I hope that you are excited because we are going to dive into yet another in my most haunted series. Last week we dove into one of the world's most haunted paintings, which was an object, clearly. And for today's video, we are going to be diving into the Screaming Tunnel, which is said to be one of the most haunted locations in the world. The awesome thing about this series, you guys, is there are so many most haunted places. So this series is going to be like amazing. All of the content that I've been searching and all of the videos that I want to add into this series just like really super excite me. But the reason that I chose the Screaming Tunnel for today's video is because it is located under an hour away from where I'm currently seated. So if you guys want to hear about one of the most haunted tunnels in the world that is said to be haunted by a scared little girl ghost, all you gotta do is just keep on watching today's video. Before I get into today's video though, I have 3 things that I just really quickly want to say, and I would super appreciate if you guys wouldn't skip over this because there are some really important things and there are just some things that I have been feeling very strongly about sharing on here, if that even makes sense. The first thing that I want to say is that my prayers and my thoughts are with everybody in Mexico right now. I was so beyond devastated when I heard that Mexico was just hit with yet another earthquake, and just looking at the devastation that this earthquake has caused just has my heart completely with them right now. I feel pretty helpless from where I sit here in Canada, and I feel like not helpless because I'm trying to donate to the organizations that are truly doing their part in helping those affected by Irma, Jose, these earthquakes, and all of the other natural disasters taking place. But I just feel like it's so easy for me to say like praying for this place or praying for that place in the safety and the comfort of my home. But I just want you guys to know that my prayers and my thoughts are with everybody who has been affected by Irma, by the earthquakes, and by every other natural disaster taking place right now. I cannot stress enough how important it is to continue to do all things with kindness, to empathize with these people, and to continue to keep our faith and our hope strong. In times of tragedy, devastation, and just natural disasters in general, it is so easy for people to lose their faith because ultimately you find yourself questioning like, how could this happen? How can I have faith in you know, there's God, but all of these things are happening. And all that I can truly tell you is that the most important thing to do is to not let the negativity win and to not let these things rip our faith away from us. I think the most important thing that we can do as a community is continue to pray for these people and continue to have hope and faith that these disasters will hopefully end soon, and that we can continue to grow and help out those in need as they regrow their communities and their homes. The second thing that I want to say is that today's video is really special to me because I am filming it on my grandpa's death anniversary. I lost my grandfather 9 years ago today, and it still feels like yesterday, and I miss him with my whole entire heart, and he is one of the main reasons that I continue to push myself and continue to grow on this channel, because he inspires me so much to be an ambitious, hardworking young woman, and I just really hope that I'm making him proud. So I just wanted to give him a shout out in this video and tell you guys that. On a more positive note, I really just want to let you guys know that the reason that I have not been uploading as frequently as I typically do is because, and if you follow me on social media, you would have heard it first because I tell everything on there first, I am going to be doing 31 days of Halloween. I figured you guys would think that I would do something like super special for Halloween, but for me, what 31 days of Halloween is, it means that I am going to be uploading every single day for 31 days in honor of Halloween. I've been like super preparing all of this content for you guys because 31 days is a lot of days and a lot of videos and a lot of consistent content. And I never ever want my content to lack because I'm trying to put out large quantities at once. I know people say quality over quantity, but I believe that when you work hard, you can combine quality and quantity, and that's why I've been uploading less frequently these past 2 weeks, is because I'm trying to prepare tons of content, tons of video ideas so that you guys have 31 amazing videos in honor of Halloween. But without further ado, I'm going to stop talking and let's get into the Screaming Tunnel. So the Screaming Tunnel is located in the northwest corner of Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. Now, Niagara Falls is a place that I have visited ever since I was a small little girl. I love Niagara Falls. It's beautiful, there's tons to do up there, and it's just one of those places for like everyone in like the Toronto area or like anywhere that's relatively close to Niagara Falls to go and spend a weekend there in a hotel or spend a night there in a hotel, and you kind of feel like you went on a vacation for like a little like 0.5 of the price. So ever since I was a little girl, you guys know I've had so many paranormal experiences, and so I had heard about this ever since I was small. My friends and I would talk about it, my family even talked about it when we went up there, and there was just like a lot of conversation around this tunnel and the true story behind it. The interesting thing though is that despite it being under an hour away, and despite the fact that I go there almost all of the time, I've actually never visited the Screaming Tunnel, which is interesting because I feel like it's something that I should have visited given my interest in things like that, but I haven't. So this tunnel runs underneath what was at the time the Grand Trunk Railways, but is now the Canadian National Railways. There's a total misconception as to what this tunnel was originally utilized for. A lot of people believe that it was used as like a railway means of transportation, but that is in fact incorrect. The tunnel was used as a drainage tunnel because back in the day, there was a ton of farmhouses and farmland up in that area, and it was used to drain the water from those farmhouses and from, you know, the farms in order to prevent flooding and things like that. So the legend has it, I don't even know if it's necessarily a legend actually, because tons of people claim to have experienced this, but I mean, the legend, the rumor, whatever you want to call it, has it that if you go into this tunnel late at night and you light a single match, the spirit of a little girl will come screaming and blow it out. Some people claim that you actually see the little girl, which by the way, you guys, could you imagine being in a dark tunnel, lighting a single match that is your only source of light, seeing a screaming little girl ghost, having her blow out your match to only be in the darkness again, knowing that you're accompanied by something? I mean, that whole entire concept is just very freaky. Well, other people actually claim that when they lit the match, they didn't see the little girl, but they heard her screams and their match was completely blown out. Now, as there are with any sort of legend or any sort of haunted locations, there are many different stories as to what people believe happened to this little girl. But there is one story that the locals believe to be true, and today that's the story that I'm going to get more into detail with you with. However, when I finish this story, I will touch on like the other stories around it, the other two. There's really only 3 that people like spread around, but there's one that is the most common. So nowadays, if we were to go there right now and visit this place, when you travel through the tunnel and you get to the other side of the tunnel, there is a forestry area. There's tons of trees, it's all overgrown, and it is now just like a forest. But back in the day, if you were to travel through that tunnel, I'm talking the early 1800s, there was a cluster of homes. Now this was like a tight-knit community. Everybody knew everybody and everybody knew everybody's business. One of the families in this tight-knit community consisted of an alcoholic father, an abused mother, and their small daughter. Now it is said that when this father would drink, he would become incredibly abusive to his wife. He would become a monster. But when he was sober on those slight, small occasions, he craved normalcy. He craved that perfect, picture-perfect family. He wanted to be the best dad to his daughter and the best husband to his wife. But the minute that he started drinking, this monster came out in him and he would physically, mentally, and emotionally abuse his wife. Now eventually, the wife grew tired of this. She was exhausted with living in fear of what could happen to her small daughter, with living in fear of what could happen to her, and if something were to happen to her, the fact that her daughter would be left with this monster. So finally, one night as he was on a drunken rampage, she decided to leave. She started to pack up all of her things and she was taking the small daughter with her. Now this triggered the father. This made him realize that any sense of normalcy, any sense of that picture-perfect family and being the best dad he could be was about to be ripped away from him. He was never gonna see his daughter again. And it was like something in his brain just switched. he realized if he couldn't have his daughter, that he wanted no one to have his daughter. His wife was not gonna get to keep her, and he was never gonna see her. So he ripped his daughter out of the arms of his wife. He beat his wife, and as he was beating his wife, his daughter ran out of the house. Now, like I said, there was a small cluster of homes. This was a small, tight-knit community. There weren't very many places for this little girl to run, and so she ran into the tunnel. Now, while she was hiding in the tunnel, it was not long until her father found her because, I mean, like I said, there's not very many places for her to hide. He just assumed that was where she went. And as he found her, he poured his alcohol bottle over her body, lit a single match, and caught her on fire, where all that you could hear were the screams of the little girl. And it is those screams that are said to be heard until today. Now, like I've mentioned in previous videos, it is a known fact amongst the paranormal community, and the reason I put that in quotations is because for those of you who are skeptical or don't believe that there's any known facts in the paranormal world, I respect that. But if you've been fortunate enough to know that these things exist and these things are real, and you've done your research on it and you've kind of educated yourself on all things paranormal and supernatural, it is said to be known that when a ghost dies in such a traumatic way, such as a murder, oftentimes they don't realize that they're dead and they continue to relive those moments leading up to their death until they can cross over, until hopefully somebody can help cross them over. Now, this was not just a life taken too soon. I mean, it was taken too soon, but this wasn't just, an adult whose life was taken too soon. This was a little girl who probably did not understand in the moments leading up to her death what was happening. So it is no surprise to me that when somebody goes in there and lights a match, that her ghost panics, screams, and blows out the match because she doesn't want to relive what happened to her in the moments of her death. Now, like I said, along with this main story, which is what the locals believe to be true and what a lot of people are leaning towards to be true. I mean, people have done their research into the history of Niagara Falls, into the history of that particular area, and they claim that this was a real family and that this tragedy did happen. I personally did not dig into the history of Niagara Falls and into the history of that because that's not necessarily what is significant to me in this story. Ultimately, with all of these stories, which I'm about to get into, there is one common denominator, and that common denominator is the fact that the little girl was in fact burned alive in that bridge. So to me, we're talking about the most haunted. I really, not that I couldn't care less because all of it is devastating tragedy, but I'm talking about what is known to people, and what is known to people is what the little girl will do and that she exists within there. The other two stories are as follows. The first story is believed that once again, the cluster of homes, the cluster of farm homes lived on the other side of this tunnel, and that one of them burned down, and a little girl, to escape the fire, found her way into the tunnel and actually burned to death within the tunnel. The third story is that a little girl was being assaulted by a predator, and that after he finished assaulting her, he lit her and burned her alive to dispose of the evidence of what he had done. All of them are completely devastating. I mean, in any way, shape, or form, when a small child, or anybody for that matter, is burned alive, it is traumatizing, it is devastating. However, I'm leaning towards, as I've done my research, the story that I shared with you being true. And the reason that I'm leaning towards that is how the match comes into play. They say if you light a lighter, you don't really get the same results. It's when you light a single match, she screams, she panics, and she blows it out. So the fact that that is the only story that really contains a single match, I mean, unless the house was burned by a match, and actually, I'm totally wrong about that, because for all I know, her predator could have lit a single match. For all I know, the house could have burned down with a single match, or the story that we've shared. So disregard that. It could be any of them, but ultimately, I don't know, for some reason, my heart is leaning towards the story of the father. I don't know why. Maybe because I've heard, maybe because I did read up that people claim that that was a real family and things like that. But regardless, the story is heartbreaking, whichever way it goes, and it is definitely very sad. Now, something really interesting is this tunnel has been used in Hollywood productions. It was actually used in the 1983 adaptation of Stephen King's novel, The Dead Zone. And it is said, whether or not it's true, I don't know, but it is said that they actually called cut quite a few times because as they were filming at this tunnel, they heard the screams of a little girl. So I found that super interesting too as I was doing my research, because I mean, there's just so many people who have experienced this little girl and her screams, and it's just so crazy how many people throughout all of these years swear by the Screaming Tunnel being haunted by this little girl. Now here's where it gets interesting, my Reese's Pieces. Like I said, am doing 31 days of Halloween, and I thought as I was researching this, what if I did a vlog style video visiting the Screaming Tunnel at night? I don't know if this is something you guys would be interested in, but like I said, it's under an hour drive away from me. It's so close. I go to Niagara Falls quite often, and I think that that might be some interesting footage, and we can see if we hear anything on camera. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of that. I would do it for you. I love you guys. I would do anything for you. But I think that that would be really interesting as one of our 31 days of Halloween. On that note, what do you guys think of this story? Do you think that the Screaming Tunnel is haunted by the little girl? Do you think that it's an urban legend blown out of proportion? Talk it out in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Be kind to one another while you talk it out. And like I always say, there is nothing more that I love than sharing these stories with you guys and seeing what you guys think. On that note, you guys, if you enjoyed today's video but you are not yet subscribed, please go ahead, click that subscribe button. I post a ton of videos and I have 31 days straight of videos coming. I really don't want you to miss that, and please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. It makes my heart super happy. It encourages me to keep on making these videos, which I love to do, so please do that. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until next time, love you.